Do you keep trying to do line art and it just doesn't look very good? Does it look scratchy or unappealing? Well, here's a few tips to make your line art look a little nicer, and hopefully it'll end up being your favorite part of the process in the future, just like mine. This tip depends on your preferences, but please do give a couple of brushes a different try to find what you like. I find that I personally like a brush with a little bit of texture and the opacity turned down a bit. You can download my brush that I use in my bio. They're for Clip Studio Paint and they're free, so grab it if you're interested. I also do not use pen pressure to change the width or thickness of my lines. I use it instead to change the darkness of my lines when I'm drawing. It helps to save time by not having to go over the darker areas as much. My next tip is line confidence or line smoothing. Line smoothing is a setting in a lot of digital programs. What it does is to help get a smoother line when you're putting your lines down. However, this can feel a little laggy. I've seen some other professional artists say to just practice your line confidence rather than relying on line smoothing to get a nice line. I personally like to have this setting on 10 to 15%, so I get a little help on some of my lines if I need it. For line confidence, as you can see in my example video, it's really important for getting a nice clean line. It means to draw from the arm and elbow to get a nice line. It also means you can use Ctrl-Z when you don't get a line that you like. As you practice, you'll notice that you'll start using Ctrl-Z less and less as your line confidence improves. Line shading. Line shading is when you suggest volumes with just lines. Instead of having a gradient, you add a few lines where needed for your line art. It's great for more soft surfaces like rounded edges. It is important to note when using line shading, you're replacing the shading with lines to convey the darker parts of the shadow. So that means you don't have to go around the entire soft edge with the lines, just the edges to give that illusion of roundness. Line weight. Line weight is the biggest tip you can get from me in this video. If you take anything else away from this video, I want you to remember line weight because it's one of the most important things when you're focusing on line art. It has three main functions: to show depth, bring attention to something, and to show cavities and crevices on something. When you want to show depth with line art, the lines get bolder as they get closer to the viewer. As they get thinner, they disappear into the background. Now, if you want to make the eye follow a path on your drawing, it's really simple. The way to do it is to use line weight to your advantage, showing the most important thing with the darkest lines and the least important with the thinner lines. This works because you are creating contrast, and that causes the eye to look at the most contrasting thing in the piece first. The last benefit of line weight is to show crevices on characters or objects. You'll notice here in places like between the legs or where there would be a strong shadow under the clothes, the lines are slightly darker. My last tip for better line art is to focus on the silhouette. The silhouette is very important, and using line art to make your character pop out from the background can make a huge difference. I personally will go around the edges of my characters with line art for two reasons. It makes it easier to fill in the flat colors later and makes the character stand out a little bit more. If you have a strong silhouette, your brain immediately knows what it's looking at. And that's it. Please let me know if the tutorial was helpful or if there's anything that needs a little bit more explaining. Thanks for sticking around with me, and for everyone who has followed me so far on my art journey, I'm actually going to be at the Dublin MegaCon January 21st, 2023. That's going to be this Saturday. So if you're around and want to meet and support me, I'll be there. Again, thanks for everything, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!